Hope you're having a great time here in Austin, Texas at SaaStock USA. It's much bigger this year, so everything must be going well. So, Barrow Hamilton, you are the Chief Product Officer at Maxio. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? How'd you get to Maxio?
Sure thing. First of all, hey everybody, glad you're here. Happy to be here and talk about product. I get super excited about product, so if I get too excited, I'll try to calm down. But I've been doing product for many, many years. It's spent a bunch of time at a company that did a bunch of cloud hosting and that sort of services type products. I've actually worked up here in Austin for a company that did digital identity and identity management kind of solutions. And then had an opportunity about 5.5 years ago to join a company called Chargeify that was in the subscription billing space. It was an exciting opportunity. I did that. Chargeify then merged with a company called SaaStock about 3 years ago now to become Maxio. And so I've been with Maxio for about 5.5 years and heading up product the whole time.
And you're in San Antonio, right down the 75 miles down the road.
That's right. Just down in the part of the San Antonio, Austin technology metroplex, as I like to call it.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk about the 5 must-haves to take your product to the next level. So the first thing we're going to focus on is customer centricity. How does Maxio ensure its product development processes remain customer focused? And can you give a specific example where customer feedback directly influenced a product decision?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, this is about the 5 pillars. I think the customer centricity one is the most important. On this stage yesterday, I don't know how many of you saw Ev Contisvoy speak yesterday. He talked about this also and the stuff that he's done in his past and he's doing with Teleport. And it sounds kind of obvious, but it's just, go talk to people, go talk to customers. The phrase "get outside of the building" is a little bit more resonates even more today in our Zoom video conference world. But it's really, really critical that you talk to customers. And it's not about, hey, would you like this feature? It's about like, what are you struggling with? What are you trying to solve for? We use that term a lot in our product development process. In fact, the first thing we do and all of our feature development is we create what we call a product narrative, which is the story of what the thing is that you're building. And it begins with what's the problem that the customer is trying to solve. You have to really understand that first. It sounds kind of obvious when you say it, but it's really easy to get into the details of building this feature, that feature. But the customer feedback is absolutely critical. And the second thing I recommend that we do as well, which is a great way to get customer feedback, because customers don't always know how to articulate what it is they want. They can articulate what it is they're trying to get done, but they can't necessarily describe the solution all the time. So you want to get as much feedback as you can, and the fastest way to do that is to build prototypes. Sometimes people get stuck in this mindset that we got to get a bunch of requirements and then build it and then get feedback. But you can do a lot with tools today. Figma and Vision prototypes, where you can put stuff together and put it in the hands of a customer, put it in front of a customer. We did this a couple years ago with a product idea that we had around some advanced reporting and analytics and some custom dashboarding. And we put some prototypes together. We got some feedback. We enhanced the prototypes. We got more feedback, et cetera, et cetera. And then by the time we were developing, we knew we were building the right product at that point.
And how about innovation? What are the key practices your team employs to foster innovation, and how do you balance innovative development with the core needs of your existing customer base?
Great question. I think innovation is obviously another important pillar of product development. The challenge is the second part of your question, which is how do you balance it with everything else, especially if you're a growth or scale company. So some of this will vary as your company evolves over time, right? When you're in that startup foundation phase, you're looking for the product market fit. You're kind of in a natural, organic, innovative mode of operating because you're looking for how am I going to get something to market that's going to be successful. Once you get that and you get customers, now suddenly you're dealing with questions from customers, requests from customers, things that would be good to enhance the product, things that you already thought about but you hadn't quite gotten to yet. So now you're making trade-offs between that and innovations, and that just becomes a more and more difficult prioritization and trade-off decision process that you have to go through over time. So what I found and what we do is you just got to be very, very explicit about it. You've got to be explicit that we are going to have a certain amount of, we do it on sort of an investment allocation percentage, certain amount of investment in innovation. We're use a Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3 frameworks. We're always looking at what are some things that we could be doing in the future, which helps you sort of frame your thinking. And then we're just explicit, which we've done something recently at Maxio with a new product feature set that's in development now, where we said, this is what we're going to do. These are the people that are going to work on it. That's what they're going to go focus on. They're going to be on that mission and purpose. And you've got to keep them distracted from everything else. You want them focused on what that innovation is, because innovation is difficult. You're going to have a lot of ideas. They're not always going to work. You want to be able to cycle through those quickly, and you don't want to get bogged down by everything else. So I think the key thing is just being decisive about it and then being very purposeful about allocating investment for it.
And scalability. As Maxio grows, what strategies do you implement to ensure your product can scale effectively without compromising quality on user experience?
That's a big question. So scalability is obviously really, really critical. I also describe it as just, I think that the quality is the critical piece of that. So it's, you want to be able to obviously add more and more customers, more and more users. You want to be able to scale in that way. But once again, it's similar to what I talked about a second ago with the innovation challenge that you have. You've got to be able to make these trade-offs, and you've just got to be conscientious about it and purposeful in the way you're making about these trade-offs. And I think it's very context specific. So here's what I mean by that. You may be at a stage where what's really critical for you is that innovation level of investment and innovating and getting something new to market. Maybe you're a startup and you're still looking for that product market fit, or maybe part of your business is stagnated and you're looking for that next big win. So in that case, you're going to be investing more and more in terms of the overall amount of product people, designers, engineers you have on doing that innovation. Then you may have that you've got that product market fit and you're really focused on growing your customer base and acquiring new customers based on the thing that's differentiating you today. You just got to make sure you keep evolving it. It stays relevant in the market. You keep enhancing it. You're staying ahead of your competitors, et cetera. So I think of that more as an enhancement phase and where you're allocating some of your budget. So your question about scalability, I see that as the third potential bucket of how you want to think about how you're allocating people. And you can call it maintenance or tech debt or something around that area, but you've got to always be mindful of that as well. So you may be at a point where you've got product market fit, you're in a good shape in terms of keeping up with and ahead of and keeping your core differentiators ahead of your competitors in that area. You've got to then be very purposeful then of allocating some resources for technical debt, for maintenance, for looking at issues within your technical stack and architecture. Where do you need to make some enhancements? Where, if you project your future growth, what are the things that are going to limit you, which you may not be feeling today, but could be in the future in your technology stack? So I'll give you an example of that from our background. So we launched a product, it's been 3 years ago now, called Events-Based Billing. And very innovative product where you could stream events data to us, all the attributes on those events. You could put them into our visualization engine so you can see exactly what's happening with interactions with your application or whatever it is that you've got events data streaming out of. You can then use those attributes to then create essentially formulas for calculation and rating on those events, and you can use those as a pricing model and use those as a billing model. And so it's been a great product. Many of our customers who use it love it. What we're seeing is we're getting larger and larger customers be interested in it, which means larger numbers of events streamed to us on a per second basis, et cetera. So that's a good example of one where we've had to be very purposeful of continuing to stay ahead of that scale and continue to invest at it. Look at maybe things that are out in the world today from a technology perspective that didn't exist back then. Looking at some of the back-end architecture, for example. Are there some different ways that we can do some things? Are there some ways that we can partition things differently? But we've got to, we're always very cognizant. This gets back to that investment budget, where we're always looking at, we've got to allocate some percentage, and I just keep using the term budget generically, but some percentage of our efforts, usually from an engineering perspective, on being purposeful about that, because otherwise, right, if you've got a scalability problem, you're in a bad place if you've got it at that point. You want to stay ahead of something like that. You don't ever want that to catch up to you.
And data is the new gold. So data utilization, how critical is data in shaping your product decisions? And what measures do you take to ensure the data you collect is both actionable and secure?
Yeah, so data is the fourth pillar, and it goes hand in hand really with the first pillar around being customer centric. Um, I love to study quotes and things that people say, and there's one I won't get exactly right, but there's one that Steve Jobs used to always talk about, which is you can't always just build exactly what your customers are asking for, because by the time you built it, they're going to ask for something else, right? So you definitely want to do that. You want to be customer centric, and you want to talk to them. I don't. The point of that quote is not just the point of that quote is to not just do that. You've also got to inform it with data that helps you see trends and understand where things are heading. You know, the famous Wayne Gretzky quote about I skate to where the puck is going, not to where it is today. And so you can really only do that with data. So there's lots of different ways to get great data, right? So there are lots of tools on the market. There's some companies out here that will help you capture data around what your users are actually doing in your application so that you can see that. You can see utilization patterns so that you can improve the user experience. So there's that kind of data that you can get. Of course, there's market data. Our company, Maxio, publishes actually a report that maybe some of you have heard of called the Maxio Institute report, which is benchmark data. So if you can look at also benchmark data across your industry, things that you're working to go toward, that's incredibly helpful as well, right? Because then you're able to compare where you are versus where you need to get to be competitive in that particular industry or in that particular application area. And that's, it's like we talked about data being gold. I mean, that's just the gold right there, is how can this data inform me to go to where I need to go. And then, as much as you can, trending, looking at analysis, drawing conclusions. In some cases you have to, at some point you got to make a decision, and you got to kind of trust everything you're bringing together. But it's definitely the blend of talking to customers, looking at data. And another good way to come back to customers is speak to customers, get some initial hypotheses of some things, go get some data, what seems validated, what does not seem validated, go back to talk to customers, and do that process as early as possible so that you have all those different angles. It gives you great insights into what you should be building.
And number 5, team collaboration. Can you describe the collaborative process within your product team? Additionally, do you secure alignment between product engineering and marketing team, or how do you secure the alignment between those?
Yeah, so fifth pillar, collaboration. It's absolutely critical. Similar to some of the other things we talked about earlier, this is going to be easier, harder, different depending on the stage of your company, right? If you're a smaller company, 10 or fewer people, it's a lot easier to collaborate than if you're 100 people, 200 people. Just, everybody's just easily working together. If you're a really small company, you really have to collaborate to survive, right? Everybody's jumping in to do everything. As you get larger, then you do start to have more functional areas, sales, marketing, customer success, etc. And it's just critically important that you're collaborating with those organizations for several reasons. One is CS and sales is going to give you a lot of that great data that we talked about. They're going to connect you with customers. They're going to help you facilitate those conversations, all that stuff that's going to be really critical to informing your product prioritization, your product development roadmap. Also, you've got to collaborate with CS and sales to enable them to successfully sell and service your product. So, the product is not just about the feature set. Once again, this kind of evolves as you move along the scale of your company. But at the end of the day, if you've got some people who are presenting your product to the market and helping customers use your product, they need to be really effective at that as well for your customers to have a great customer experience. So what we do with our sales and CS departments, and once again, we're a little bit larger company, so it's a bit more formal, is we just have recurring sessions with them. Every week, every month, we review everything, we get feedback, we look at all the data from our pipeline, we look at all the data from our customer satisfaction analysis, etc. We review all that, we align on priorities, and we just kind of rinse and repeat that process over and over again. The marketing group is a little bit different. Obviously, you need to collaborate with marketing as well to take your product to market effectively. Marketing is a little bit more of the way I think about it, a little bit more of your customer's product, right? Because they're needing to understand what your product does, put the right messaging around it, put it into the right channels, and help it be successful from a market perspective. So similar in the sense that they've got to be enabled to be able to do that, and the only way to do that is with collaboration. Anyway, the best way to do all that with collaboration is it's kind of what I said about customers earlier. It's get in a room, talk through it, make sure everybody understands what it is, what you're trying to achieve. Go back to that initial, what were we solving for? I talked about that product narrative at the beginning. I can't emphasize that enough. That's an artifact that we use over and over again because you can always go back to it. Even if, for example, when you're ready to launch and you're in that marketing session, you're talking about going to market, what are the ideas? It's like, well, let's go back once again and remind ourselves exactly the customer problem that we were solving for, because our product, did we validate our product solves for that? Yes, great. Then we need to make sure that the messaging that goes to the market also reiterates that same message for us.
All right, we're coming up to the end of our time here. You wanted to open it up. Does anybody have any questions out there? Okay. Well, my question is, out of the five, customer centricity, innovation, scalability, data utilization, and team collaboration, how do you weight those? Are they all equally weighted, or do you give more prominence to one over the other?
I would give customer centricity the number one prominence. I just think that if we could only do one, that would be the one that we would do. But it is, I really would argue that it's really difficult to be successful without having all five of those pillars. But at the end of the day, as a product person, what my job is to create something that helps someone who's going to employ or buy my product be better, do something more successfully, be better at whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, solve a problem they're trying to solve for. And so the only way you can ever do that is to understand what the customer is needing. And the only way you can do that is to be super customer focused and speaking to customers as often as you can to understand what it is they need.
And you can't get through a session these days without talking about AI. So does every company need to have an AI strategy? And what do you think about the outlook for companies with AI?
Yeah, I mean, every company needs to have an AI strategy. Absolutely. I think a little bit more nuanced answer to that. I think every company needs to have two AI strategies, or at least two key elements to their AI strategy. One is, what are you as a company going to do with AI to make your company more effective, right? And so some of that can be in the product development process and gathering feedback and processing feedback and things of that nature, formulating messaging, things. There's just, as you all know, there's tons of productivity tools that AI is helping with today. And then secondly, from a product perspective, how are you going to incorporate and or partner with AI technologies in order to make the features that are part of your product set even more effective in solving for the customer to get done what it is they need to get done. So some of that could be, like for our particular feature set, some of that could be AI that facilitates and suggests certain actions. One of the things the Maxio software does is it helps you manage subscription businesses, right? So for example, making suggestions around what trends are within customers, where might you have opportunities to help customers do different things, upgrade their subscriptions, et cetera. And then, of course, there's just the data insights that you can get, potentially from AI. Another key part of our platform is all of our reporting and analytics. So one of the things we're thinking about, of course, is how can we build more AI kind of capabilities into the insights that our software can provide to our customers. And that's, something that we're looking into now.
And any other tech trends or things that Maxio is looking at out on the horizon that you've got your pulse on that you want to share?
Yeah, I think the other big one for us is, and it's been interesting to talk to people here, and one of the things I always am curious about is what people's different pricing models are. And so as a company for Maxio, what we do is, how do you want to price it? Great, get all that set up. Then we'll make sure that we can invoice and bill for it and collect the payments and report on it, all the way down the line. I think we will continue to see more and more evolution of different pricing models. And the one that I'm hearing more and more about in the market, we've got some capabilities as well, is around models that are not just usage models, right? We've had usage-based models for a while now, but more nuanced usage-based pricing models, right? Things that are like usage-based with a commitment level, or usage-based with different tiers, or usage-based based on different combinations of attributes like I was talking about with events-based billing. So I think what we'll also continue to see is more and more refinement of how businesses price their services to more closely align with the value they provide. And there's several people here at the conference who I know are thinking quite a bit about that as well and advising people on how to do pricing.
And you're in San Antonio. Can you talk a little bit about how Maxio's workforce is? Are you remote? Are you how are you dispersed?
We are, yeah, we're remote. So as I said, Maxio came together from SaaS Optics, which was primarily in Atlanta, and we were primarily Chargeify in San Antonio. But we are a remote company. We have an office. We have offices in different locations. So we have an office in Dublin, Ireland, for example, San Antonio, Atlanta. We have an office in Krakow, Poland, where a lot of our engineering resources are. But the way we consider, or the way we think about our offices and coming together in person is let's do that for purpose. So let's do that in a way where it's important that we get together in person for collaboration purposes. But we want everybody to have the opportunity to do their best work in whatever the format of that is. So that's what we tend to do. It's a little bit of a flexible model, but particularly what we recommend is just that in-person collaboration is just invaluable. So making some time and having some physical space for that is really, really important.
All right, and we're coming up to the end of our time here. So one more pressing question: who has the better tacos, Austin or San Antonio?
It's clearly San Antonio.
I have to agree with you there. It's definitely San Antonio. If you guys get a chance, get the San Antonio tacos.
Yeah,
well, thank you
absolutely.
so much, Barrow. Appreciate all your time today and sharing your thoughts about Maxio with us and all your insights.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Enjoyed it.